Hello, today let's talk about pretty recently announced gadget and its FiiO's new true wireless model. If you remember, they released TWS earphones some time ago, actually a few years ago already. Was a cooperation between FiiO and Jade Audio. But since then they really perfected their technologies both in in-ear monitors and in true wireless Bluetooth. They released few really great TWS Bluetooth ear hooks that all of them I reviewed, and they really developed really good lineup of in-ear monitors for each price with different construction, and here they selected hybrid construction with DLC dynamic driver and two balanced armatures. And on top of that they put AK4332 per each ear, digital tonal converter and amplifier, and some recent Qualcomm chip to handle Bluetooth. It's actually a really straight to the point model, because there is no active noise cancelling, and it's basically focused just on music listening. It's their main purpose, so consider them as targeted for music, and that's all. So in this review we'll talk about that more. Battery lifetime is up to 7 hours, usually roughly about 6 depending on volume, and the case has 2 additional charges on top of that. Supported codecs are up to aptX adaptive, which is pretty nice. No support for the LDAC, but it's easy understandable that it's hard to license this codec for your true wireless model. And actually, even without it, with aptX adaptive, it works really well. But more about that in when we'll come to the sound and stuff. So let's have a closer look. Price is $160, but you can find some discounts, which makes it even more pleasant. Package is traditional. It's FiiO's signature box that I like for quite a long time. And here we're getting a case with earphones themselves, 2 set of tips, FiiO's signature HS1B and tips that they called balanced, and of course USB cable for charging, so it's pretty what you can expect. Again, general accessory set can be considered as pretty nice. In terms of design, first we see really traditional case. It has nice shape, it's rounded. On the back part there is USB Type-C for charging and 4 LED indicators on front to show the amount of charge remaining in the case. No wireless charging, unfortunately, or some extra features. Case created to be operatable by 2 hands. Probably it's possible to find some position to hold it and open one-handed, but it won't be really convenient experience. But two-handed operation is pretty nice. You open it, take earpieces, put in ears and then close. Actually, I really like the amount of click here. Magnets were properly selected. And here are earpieces themselves. So I like the shape. I'm a fan of FiiO's FD series, so it's fun to see it once again. Wearing comfort is really nice. I like it. They have nice spouts, and they have this big part that isolates ear channels pretty well. With proper tips you can achieve a nice level of passive sound isolation. There is no active noise cancelling, unfortunately, but passive noise cancelling it's pretty enough for everyday usage. And they doesn't stand out too much and looks pretty strict in ears. And another interesting thing here that FiiO decided to use 2 mechanical buttons for the controls. So one is to turn them on and off and start, play, pause. So basically like that main button on every Bluetooth headset, answer, call and reject it. And second one is different for left and right earpieces. Single clicks give you volume control, left is down, right is up, and holding these buttons is previous and next track correspondingly. So pretty convenient control schema that allows you to do all operations really fast. And they have nice click, they are easy to find, and in general I like this idea with buttons. They have some degree of waterproof, of course not at the level of swimming, but at least to wear them under the rain. But actually it's better to refer to the manual to see their IPX rating. And about the connection quality, it's another pretty surprising part. It's up to 10 meters inside the flat, and even with some thin wall on the way. And on the street I didn't have any issues with connectivity. Actually FiiO said that they've used some patented antenna shape inside. Probably it's working. As usual, there is one exception about when you entering some shopping mall or something like that with a lot of Wi-Fi networks and a lot of interference. And to summarize this part, in terms of design they are also really good, and in terms of ergonomics too. Traditionally FiiO added possibility to control some settings of these earpieces with their control app, so both FiiO Control and Control tab in FiiO Music application. But currently updated versions of FiiO Music and Control app are not available in the Play Store yet, so you have to go to FiiO website and in downloads part download FiiO Control 3.4 and install it to control this model. But I'm sure that by the moment when they hit sales agent all over the world, FiiO will update applications in the Play Store, adding missing possibilities. And here is that side-loaded version of FiiO Control. You can see that FiiO FW5 is present here and it shows as connected. I can go inside, so here everything is traditional. Photo of the model, name, charge level and firmware version. Also there are common settings, so you can see what is possible to do here. And good news that in future we'll possibly can get some firmware updates. Then goes indicator light, but to be honest I haven't seen indicator light on this model. Maybe I totally miss where it's located, but currently I haven't seen them working. Maybe I need to match some conditions. Even when I turn them on, actually nothing happens. Maybe in pairing mode it will glow or something like that. Also you can activate battery protection, and the battery won't charge higher than 85%, so it will give them longer lifetime overall, but life on one charge will be shorter, of course. Also game mode, it will give you lower delay, but noticeably lower, so really good mode, but battery consumption will be higher. And idle power off, so after what amount of time they will be shut down when not used. In sound settings we can select channel balance, one of 4 low-pass filters available for this digital tonal converter, then headphones volume, volume of tones and volume of call. Easy, good thing to have them separate. And the language of tones, English or Chinese. And also here you can see some short manual about their operation and statuses. So as you can see, settings are basic, but I really hope that FiiO will add a lot of new features and settings in the future. And here is our traditional microphone test. I am recording this part of the video with earpieces in my ears. I won't apply here any gain correction or equalization, so it gives you an idea of how the microphones sound in quiet environment. And of course about the sound. Spoiler, they sound really well. There are a few ways of achieving better sound in the true wireless models. First one is using advanced codecs, because more bandwidth means less distortion and means better sound quality, but usually it doesn't help much actually, because even LDAC is still a lossy codec with some issues. Second one is using digital signal processing to reconstruct the signal, to color it in some way to make sound more natural and engaging. And third one that FiiO selected here is using good digital tonal converter, nice amplification and actually good drivers with proper tuning, and they succeed in creating really good sound. It's V-shaped with accented low frequencies, but thanks to the balanced armatures on mids and treble, bass is not dominating, so sound is really balanced. And it's a typical V-shaped hybrid tuned for engaging sound to make it more pleasant. Of course, no attempts to do it monitoring or dry sounding. No, it's not the option here. And actually, you know, by some tuning of audio part here, FiiO even managed to make balanced armature sound more organic and warmer with less of the typical balanced armature metal sound, and overall in more balance with dynamic drivers, so they are detailed but at the same time pretty musical. Of course, I'm not speaking about comparisons with wired models, because you can get like FiiO FH3, which will be better in wired mode. But keep in mind that for some wired earphones you will need some nice source to show their full potential. And here you don't need anything, just some smartphone or anything, absolutely. For Apple devices it supports AAC, which gives pretty nice sound quality. And for Android device, if it supports aptX adaptive, you also get a nice sound quality. But let's talk about everything step by step. So, bass is accented, not too much, but accent is noticeable. It has a good depth, and actually it's really good because of that DLC driver used here. It's firm, it has good impact, it shows that deeper bass, not of course like some skull crushing level, but deeper low frequencies are noticeable and sounds really pleasant and resonating good. And they balance really well between weight and speed, so you'll get nice impact, but when necessary you'll get also pretty decent weight. Due to lossy nature of codecs, of course, they lacking a bit of overtones, but in general acoustic instrument sounds also pretty realistic. So our first example here is Musica Nuda, I Will Survive, live version, which makes everything a bit more complicated for the earphones. And of course, to fully represent the acoustic bass here, you'll need something more expensive and wired, but still you'll get that sense of presence, you'll get good contrast between bass and vocal, you'll get a lot of nuances for the acoustic double bass. It won't be super realistic, but still level of realism is pretty nice. And second example, it's Mindfields by the Prodigy, nice, deep, punchy bass, and these earphones deliver it really well, at least to my taste, because a lot of people for such music prefer something with more eyeballs shaking power, but for me amount of deeper low frequencies is just at the level that I prefer, because for me deep bass, when it's super accented, sounds really fatiguing. It's pleasant at first, but then you start thinking that it's not supernatural, and actually it starts covering or distorting all the rest of perceived sound spectrum, so I'm not a fan of super big bass, and here I'm getting just about the perfect amount. Mids are slightly recessed comparing with lows and treble, of course, but thanks to the balanced armature nature you'll get a nice amount of details, so they won't sound shadowed or muffled or something like that. But at the same time, these earphones don't do excessive focus on the micro contrast, so it means that they won't sound super analytical or super bright, super detailed. In general, you'll get good amount of details, but they won't be pushed forward, and that's a great idea for the true wireless model, because monitoring true wireless model will show you all the issues with lossy compression and sources, but making the sound more musical here and not overdoing that will give you good sense of realism from one hand. I mean weight distribution, overtones, I mean emotions, dynamics and stuff, they represented really well. But from another hand, you get necessary details, and earphones will be forgiving for the quality of record. Even some MP3 tracks or streaming will be pretty enjoyable with them. And about imaginary stage, it's surprisingly big. It's not huge, but noticeably above average in width and in depth, and probably one of the best stages I've heard with true wireless models. But also keep in mind that stage is subjective, so your mileage may vary. And first example for the mids will be I Put a Spell on You, interesting cover version from the American Gods. Lot of vocal emotions, interesting accompaniment, and you get all that at a really good level, so sounds pretty natural and fun. And another track, it's Royal Republic, band that always gives me a good mood, and one of their recent albums, it's Fireman and Dancer. They decided to go even further in the disco direction, interesting mix of some kind of soft rock and disco music, engaging, energetic, fun, and these earphones deliver it also really well. Treble also nicely tuned. It's balanced armatures, but it's not like typical thin balanced armatures that are super airy but lacking weight. No, here you'll get more proper weight distribution, natural attacks and decays. Of course, they lacking extension or layering, especially at the upper treble, but basic overtones are here and they are represented nicely. Treble is accented. For me it's not too much accented and even not close to being too much, because for me they balance low frequencies pretty great. But if you're super sensitive to the treble, it's better to listen them before buying. A lot of people asking FiiO to add equalizer, and if FiiO will do that, it will be a good help to tweak the tuning to your liking. But so far I like the amount of treble, and I like that good quality of basic overtones and how they are saturated. They really gives more naturalness to the instruments. And first example, it's Marvin Gaye, Right On, and perfect vocal with lot of overtones in the high area, good musical part, and that also goes to the treble area noticeably. And of course it's lacking layering, it's lacking extension, but still sounds really pleasant, and it's one of the best sounds for this track in the true wireless model I've heard. And second one, actually same applies here. Basically it's Tangerine by Led Zeppelin, with that really go to the treble guitar and saturated instruments, and they also lacking a bit of refinement, but also sounds pretty nicely. As for the compressions, you know, it's pretty interesting situation, because in terms of pure sound, I'd say that it's close to the flagship models like Sennheiser, Sony, and so on. But of course, in terms of functionality, they lacking a lot of things like noise cancelling, better microphone noise cancellation, and so on, transparency mode and stuff like that. But they also cost noticeably less, so it's a trade-off. You're getting less features, but you're getting close to the flagship quality of sound. In terms of sound, they surpass like models Soundcore Liberty that I reviewed, or Yamaha that I also reviewed, which gives pretty good value, and they give you active noise cancelling and that stuff, but sound here is more natural, more engaging, more dynamic. Speaking about the flagships, actually just two models, because AirPods is first of all model created for the Apple Music, I mean not Apple Music, Apple devices, and Devialet Phantom that Gemini that I reviewed some time ago, they also in earphones on their own. They are focused on the naturalness, they are less focused on making sound engaging, but they do their best to give you like more natural sound, and they succeed somehow in that. So basically two main competitors here is Sony and Sennheiser. I won't repeat again that they offer much more features, but in terms of sound, actually here you get more tight and more impactful bass comparing to Sony, compared to Sennheiser, and somewhere at the Sony's level, but to my ears they give you a bit more saturation of the small overtones compared to Sony. And at the mids, these are more focused on the micro contrast, while Sony, Bose and Sennheiser give you better dynamics. And in the treble, here you'll get slightly more accent, while Sony will give you like typical dynamic driver, well-defined treble with proper weight distribution and less airiness, while Sennheiser tries to add them more airy and succeed in that. Basically just a matter of sound preferences, which one you will choose. So really great model if you need just to listen to the music or make some short phone calls. FiiO definitely exceed my expectations, delivering really great true wireless model. Thank you for listening, thank you for your attention, and of course have a nice day.